Hello and welcome back to The Drag Detective. We are doing part 2 of what we did last week. If you didn't see the first part of the iceberg, I will throw it up in the right hand corner right now, and it'll also be linked in the description below. We don't really need an intro. Let's just get right into the second half of the Drag Race Iceberg Explained. Hi, okay, so this is mid-editing Derek, and I actually found some of the things from this part and the first part that I missed before through both the comments, so thank you to everyone in the comments who spilled the tea, and just more digging on my end, and I think there's only one or two that I literally can't find anything on. First, quick apology. I definitely used some non-inclusive language in my last video, so thank you to those who caught it, because I just didn't catch it. I said boy outfits when referring to what people bring to the show, and obviously there's lots of people on the show who are not men, boys, of any sense. I always try, as I'm sure we all do, to use inclusive language, but sometimes you just miss the mark, and you're like, damn, have to do better moving forward. But again, thank you to those who pointed it out, and I definitely will do better moving forward with that. For the things we missed in the first episode, Candy Ho's invisible edit, I wasn't sure if there was more to it or not. No, I just think the fact that, she was in 7 episodes maybe, and got no screen time whatsoever is enough to make the iceberg itself. The money ball, so I never saw anything about this, but I saw a lot of people comment it in the comments, so I can't 1000% confirm. The money ball, the girls getting more time in the money ball. I guess Manila and Raja got more time in the money ball than Alexis and Yara did, and as we saw, Alexis and Yara were in the bottom two. Letters under the hotel door. This one, I don't know how I missed it because it seems like everyone else fucking knew this, but letters under the hotel door is fucking tea. So Jiggly Caliente says in the Untucked that she goes home, they're saying Jiggly, no, don't give up, and she's upset, and she's like, none of you got a letter. And Willem later on Race Chaser mentions that Jiggly, the morning that she went home, got a letter under her door from the hotel staff saying thank you for your stay. So before the critiques, before the lip sync, before anything, she was already destined to go home, which is kind of and apparently there's more queens in earlier seasons who also had this. So as to is Drag Race scripted, when I said no way, this kind of made me go oh, interesting. And then you'll see me come back later in this this era throughout the video when there's something that I missed before but I found later. So this is future Derek saying I'll see you soon. Enjoy past Derek. Okay, we are in the 5th section, so we're over halfway done with these now. Adore was the season 5 fan voted favorite. So basically they used to do this thing where the audience could vote for specific queens on who they wanted to be on the season. They would do a thing where you could sign up to be on the Drag Race website, and then the audience could vote for we want to see this queen on. And Penetration was one of these queens. Adore was one of these queens, and it just makes sense because she was on American Idol. She already had, a following. So that is how she got on the show. Jocelyn's makeover cheated on his wife. I like how Jocelyn's elimination is all over this thing. Already explained that. TKB's stand-up was written for her. So this one is kind of sus, and I really haven't heard anything about this before, so when I was doing research on it, I was like, interesting. They had someone on set of season 6 for that stand-up challenge to help them write jokes. Let's just say Trinity got more help than some of the other queens did, which, she had one of the best sets of the night, and now that makes sense why. Puerto Rico gaming casting is really interesting. So in Puerto Rico, which we know is a huge drag epicenter, there's so much drag in Puerto Rico. The drag houses would, in the earlier seasons, pick who they would have audition because they only wanted certain queens to represent Puerto Rico and Puerto Rican drag. So they would only allow certain ones to put in their casting tapes. Madame LaQueer was like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to put in my casting audition anyway. And she got on, and Puerto Rico got really pissed. And when the show found out about this, they stopped casting from Puerto Rico because they were like, you can't game our process, bitch. You can't pick and choose who's going to be seen. Like, that's why we're not getting that many applicants from Puerto Rico. How weird. Bianca and Adore's double crowning. They filmed Bianca getting crowned, Courtney getting crowned, Adore getting crowned, and then they filmed a Bianca and Adore double crowning. So from Bianca and Adore's perspective, they're like, okay, well, Courtney's definitely not winning because it's between me and you if they're that close that they had to, like, film a double crowning. And that was the first double crowning that was ever filmed at this point, so it was kind of a big deal. Jackie Beat invented Drag Race. There's been a lot of, you know, bigger queens who are just kind of like above the show that have, you know, tried to make something like this happen in the past. Jackie Beat was one of them. Jackie Beat was like, RuPaul, you should definitely do something like this. And then RuPaul was like, okay, I'll do it. And, you know, originally RuPaul was not going to do Drag Race. And, you know, because of queens like Jackie Beat and some other, you know, drag icons who kind of pushed her, like, this is something that should already be on the air. Like, you should do this. RuPaul then decided to do it. Fancy has been a lip sync song since season 6. There's extra songs on the iPods that they don't use every season, that they get the rights to, that they just don't get to. And Fancy by Iggy Azalea has been on the docket since season 6. Didn't get used until season 13. Season 1 queens were originally told they could bring a seamstress. So the original plan for Drag Race was that the queens were going to make their looks every week, and then they could bring a seamstress on, and they could kind of do that together. It was going to be definitely more Project Runway than it ended up being. Gigi almost disqualified from the top 3. This is another really, like, interesting story. So, top 4 of season 12, the pie one gets disqualified, so we're down to a top 3. COVID happens, and they have to film their final lip sync numbers from home without any outside help. Like, they can't have, like, I think they gave them, like, you can have, like, the people that you're quarantining with help you, but that's it. Which is why we see Jada is just, like, dancing around in a living room, and Crystal is like, I'm just gonna be a bird in my home. Gigi ended up renting out a studio space and had a bunch of people make this big production, which went against the rules, and they threatened that they were going to disqualify her, but because they already just disqualified someone else, like, it just wouldn't have looked great. So they had her redo it from her home, which is what we saw on the episode. But I think at that point there was no shot of her winning whatsoever. It was more of just a, like, let's save face and not disqualify another person. Redo your thing, but, like, girl, you're not winning. Fifi was originally cast on All Stars 1. Originally, Willem and Fifi were both going to be on All Stars 1. But Fifi didn't pass a background check, and so she got cut. And then Willem got cut because they were like, you don't have a storyline with any of these people, so you're getting cut. And they were replaced with Mimi I'm First and potentially Tammy Brown. It's not 100% sure who the second one was, but the best guess is Tammy Brown. Shangela auditioned for season 3. It wasn't just like the producers being like, hey, Shangela, we want you back, come back on. Shangela actually auditioned for it. They saw her tape, they saw how much growth she had in that short year, and they were like, all right, let's do this. Let's give you another shot. Jasmine walked off the set of the Christmas special. So this is another really fun story. Basically, the Hollis Slay Spectacular from a couple years ago was a mess. Production was nuts and crazy and ill-prepared, and they wanted to ask the queens to film for more time than they allotted for, and Shangela was like, then you're gonna pay us more. And initially they were like, no. So Shangela basically was like, well, I'm leaving unless we come to an agreement. And they pull her aside, and they go and they talk, and they, you know, whatever. And Shangela is basically getting the girls more money. Jasmine doesn't know this and thinks Shangela is being a diva and is holding up production. And Jasmine is like, I'm not dealing with this mess. This whole thing is a disaster. I'm leaving. Which is why there's, like, no Jasmine confessionals. Jasmine isn't in one of the numbers because she literally just got up and left and walked out. And was unaware that Shangela was actually really trying to, like, help all of the other queens on this special. Okay, now we are into the bottom 3 tiers. This is, like, really deep shit now. Robbie's design look missing. I still really couldn't find anything. I found like 1 or 2 references that were just like, oh yeah, she was making a dress on season 8, episode 1, and then it went missing. But there's nothing from Robbie herself or any like quotes that I could find. And then there's just 1 more left that I could not find anything for, so whatever. Okay. Bye. Future Derek is gone. Bye. Perez Hilton is the reason for live finales. I went over this because he leaked Raja's win on season 3, and then they had to change how that worked for season. Princess Aquaria drama. So, Shea Coulee, Princess Design Challenge on season 9. She goes as Princess Aquaria, and Aquaria, the drag queen, was pissed and I think said some shit at a show because she wanted to be the first Aquaria on Drag Race. The Vivian was on season 8. This is true because Vivian won that little mini pageant in the UK. She then became the UK's ambassador to Drag Race, and they allowed her to come walk the runway. She was in the audience for, I think it was the New Wave Queen when there was the audience for that episode. Sherry Pie and Gigi Goode were rivals. This has been pretty well documented as well. The main narrative of season 12 was Sherry Pie versus Gigi Goode. Sherry was going to be the hero, Gigi was going to be the villain, and they had to cut that entire storyline, which led to kind of the clunky edit that we saw, and then it being known as like RuPaul's best friend race because all the drama that was there, they had to cut. Alyssa's full All-Stars 2 runway critiques. This is a story I had never heard of before, and it's tea. All-Stars 2, Fifi is getting a lot of backlash for, talking shit on Alyssa, and then, Mirrorgate happens. Fifi is trying to stand up for herself because she's getting obliterated on social media. And she says that, Alyssa, she had bad critiques for her camera look, so, that's why I voted her out. And the producers then released the full critique, which we have never seen, the full critique of Alyssa's runway. And, for the challenge. So we hear what every judge says, and it basically discredits what Fifi just said, which is, fucking shady by Drag Race. That is shady, but it's kind of iconic. I looked for the original video. It is taken down now. I even went to the Wayback Machine to see if I could find, anything on it. No, it's scrapped. It's gone. But it was just, it takes you back to a time where Fifi was getting destroyed by the fandom, and the show was doing whatever it could to ensure that it was going to continue on. Trinity and Monet's double win was done in post-production. If you watched it, you can tell that it was definitely done in post-production. That was not the plan, but they ended up doing it anyway, and it turned out like shit. Art Simone versus Coco Jumbo was filmed 4 times. This one is wild. Art Simone, we saw get obliterated by Coco Jumbo in their lip sync to On That Bitch on Drag Race Down Under season 1, I think episode 2. But that was not the first, attempt at that. Apparently, the first time they recorded it, Art got demolished even harder. And so they were like, oh no, the footage wasn't great. We need to do it again. So they did it again. And then later on, they asked them to come back and do it yet again. I think they were really trying to get a version where they could even attempt to make it look like Art won. It just never didn't come to pass. And they ended up just having to go with, Coco, you won, and Art, you're out of here. Yuha was RuPaul's pick to win. RuPaul chose some favorites at the beginning of season 10, and Yuha was one of them. And we saw how that turned out. Phoenix O'Hara. So Fifi O'Hara, originally her drag name was Phoenix O'Hara, but because there was just a Phoenix on season 3, I don't know if she or the producers or both agreed to change her name to Fifi to not get it confused and to kind of separate her a little bit more. The season 10 Miss Congeniality vote got hacked. I remember when this happened because it was wild. The fans used to vote for Miss Congeniality until season 10 because they released the vote and someone hacked it and the Vixen won. It was everyone else had 4 million, 5 million. The Vixen had 27 million votes. It was nuts. So they scrapped it And then that is the first season that the queens themselves voted for the Miss Congeniality. And it's been that way ever since. Violet stole Sharon's crown. This is like a weird, I don't really even know what happened. It's a weird story. But basically, Sharon left her crown at a show and Violet stole it and then took a photo shoot with it. And then eventually I think Sharon got it back. But in the pageant world, putting on the crown of another winner is bad luck. So people were like, oh, when Violet was on season 7, there's no way she's winning because of that curse. Well, the curse apparently was not real in this case. Trinity, Eureka, Peppermint, Charlie, Cynthia, and Aja all got injured on the cheerleading challenge on season 9. There was way more injuries from that challenge than we saw. I mean, obviously that was a very physically aggressive challenge where you had to do a lot of shit. And especially for some of the queens that just aren't good at cartwheels and death drops and dips and flips and all of that, they really had to push themselves and there was a lot of injuries. And I think that's why we haven't really seen a challenge like that in a long time. Sharon would resell her lifetime supply of makeup, but Raja also had a lifetime supply and she would get a bunch of it and then sell it to other drag queens. So that's why later on they changed it to a big supply. Like, it's not a lifetime supply. It's not like it never ends, but you're just going to get a lot of it all at once and take it. Michelle leaked half the UK2 cast. I remember this. Basically, she just took a picture of some papers from set to be like, hey, look at, we're filming. But I think through the paper you could read the names of the queens that were on the cast, and everyone, I mean, it's not like we don't already know who's cast beforehand, but that was like a very blatant, like, oh, yep, that's everybody. Okay, we are at tier 7, very close to the bottom now. The acting challenge writer was fired after season 7. Could not find a single thing on this. Matthew Anderson dumped a wig full of water on RuPaul's head. I think it's pretty well known now that Ru and Matthew had a very bad falling out. Matthew is a makeup artist who was Ru's makeup artist for the first 7 or 8 seasons of the show. And after their falling out is when Raven stepped in. And there's a lot of stories about, you know, things that happened between them that were wild. To me, this is giving, like, Acid Betty punches Michelle in her left tit vibes. I don't think it happened, but it's a funny story that people like to throw around. The ladder. This one is so... It's kind of ominous, because you're like, what is the ladder? All it is in season 1, there's plenty of shots of a ladder just in the background, which is just like showing how poor the production was on season 1. Canceled international spin-offs. There was originally, I think, a Drag Race Germany that was supposed to happen that didn't. We've seen some other ones get canceled, like Thailand and Holland. And, you know, both of those, I guess, are more in limbo than canceled. But it's just, you know, there's things that almost happened that didn't. Ru and Raja knew each other before season 3. Raja had been a huge name in the LA drag scene for years and years and years, and her and Ru knew each other for a very long time. So I guess that just adds to the claims that Raja was destined to win season 3 before she even got there. Jiggly and Kenya had to stop taking hormones before going on the show. I think this has been debunked by Jiggly now, but I cannot be certain. AFAB queens were allowed on seasons 1 and 2, assigned female at birth queens. In the stuff, it did not say you had to be assigned male at birth to be on the show. And I think the language that they choose, they also say, oh, anybody can audition, but it's definitely like, no, not everybody actually when you look at the fine print. But that fine print was not there originally. They just did not end up casting anyone who was AFAB. Trixie's elimination and return was planned. So I don't necessarily believe this. There's rumors that Trixie was a lot of fun on set and everyone loved her, and they wanted to make a moment out of, you know, this return that they planned. So they specifically got rid of Trixie in a shocking way so that when she came back later, it would be like, oh my gosh, she's getting her second chance, ha ha ha. I don't necessarily believe that, but people like to claim it. The original cut of season 12 exists. I sure hope it does. Scarlet Starlet, another really fun little story. So Scarlet Starlet was a drag queen who was pretty big. I knew of them, and they faked being on the show. So when everyone went silent on social media for season 8, Scarlett also went silent. So people were assuming that she was on. So, all of the tea spillers and all of the Redditors put her on their list for season 8, and Layla McQueen was not on the list. And so when season 8, the cast dropped and Layla McQueen was there and not Scarlett Starlet, everyone realized, oh, Scarlett faked it to get, the followers and the attention, and she's kind of been blacklisted ever since. RuPaul is fed lines through an earpiece. I don't know why this is so far down. This should be at, the very top. I mean, obviously. Every show is like that. Lucian Piani's mental breakdown. I don't feel comfortable talking about this, but it is, really wild. I hope that they're doing better, and it's wild. Reveals are required for the lip sync SmackDown. I mean, after Sasha's Rose Petals, I think production definitely encouraged. I don't know if it was necessarily required, but they definitely encouraged them to try and make a moment like that, which is how we lead to this. Alaska's ex leaked the entire All-Stars 2 cast and eliminations. If you listen to The Tea by Alaska, she's talked about this a lot, but basically she had an ex who she was still dating after All-Stars 2, and she told everything to, and then when they broke up, he was bitter and he told the entire tea. So basically the entire season was leaked to, people online. Soju was cast to stop her from posting leaks to her YouTube. If that was true, Bootsy would have been on too. So, unaired sewing challenge from season 7. This one is interesting. So, in the dancing challenge at the end of season 7, where they're put in pairs and they're part male, part female, they also had to do the sewing. They had to make those looks. They were given a basic tuck side and then a bodysuit attached, and it was up to them to embellish it and make a look out of it. But because there was so much going on in that episode, it got cut for time. So if you just watch the episode, you don't know how they got those looks. You just think maybe they brought them from home. No, they actually had to make those there. Okay, now we are in the final category, the final bottom tier. This is the darkest, deepest shit. Starting with one I couldn't find anything on. And it is Trinity fucked a producer to win All-Stars 4. Now, I've heard that Pearl fucked a producer to make it far on season 7. Haven't heard anything about Trinity. Can't really. I think it might just be one of those things that they were upset that she won, so they say that. I don't know. Drag Race Juniors. So if you've seen MasterChef Junior or whatever, that's what I thought it was going to be at first. But Drag Race Juniors was going to be a spin-off with baby queens. So people that had just started doing drag, not toddlers or kids, but people who had just started drag. And it, I guess, was going to be more of a competition surrounding that. But it never, I don't even think they ended up casting or anything. It just didn't, it got dead in the water. Drag Queens on a Plane was originally going to be a spin-off special surrounding the Glamazonian Airways challenge on season 7, but again, it just didn't get, it just fell through. This one is so funny to me because it's so obviously fake. It's giving Michelle's left tit. It's giving death-defying dance moves. But there's been a costume budget for the queens for years that Ru keeps for herself. I wish the queens got a budget, and I think they might now. It might not be much, but I think they get one. But that's just not. It's not true. This one is. These are just unhinged. RuPaul has brain damage and memory issues from drug use. What is true? RuPaul can't remember a single queen's name, not even Jinx Monsoon. What is also true? RuPaul did a lot of drugs and alcohol in the 90s and 80s. But, I think we're just drawing some conclusions here. RuPaul's 60 years old and meets so many people a year. I think they're allowed to have some memory lapses. The original Christmas special is it's a Christmas special that no one has ever talked about or seen, and I don't know where you can even watch it, but it exists. And lastly, the entire show is scripted. I guess this is kind of harkening back to what Mariah wrote, Congratulations, Raja. I think that certain aspects are scripted. Maybe there might be a fight that they don't catch and they're hey, can you reenact this? Or hey, this is a really nice moment that you guys had. Can we reenact this? Or they might feed them a line or two in the confessional. But I don't think the whole thing is scripted. As someone who spends a lot of time looking at the riggery and looking at, you know, the shit behind the scenes, I think a lot of this shit, they're flying by the seat of their pants. So I personally don't think it's scripted. Just like how I don't think Survivor is scripted or Big Brother is scripted. Okay, Big Brother, the confessionals are all scripted. I don't think it's scripted. And that is the final part of the Drag Race Iceberg. I would love to do something like this again with like some more like recent stuff. Maybe I'll have to make my own iceberg. But let me know what you think was the wildest thing on this whole thing. I love watching these kinds of videos, so doing something like this is just like a lot of fun. And I hope you guys liked it, and I hope to do something more like this in the future. Here are the links to all of my social medias. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss a video. And just for legal sake, anything in this video is hearsay. It's he said, she said. Obviously, who knows behind some of these things what the real truth is. I'm just relaying some of the events and some of the retellings that have been said of some of these things, and I'm not trying to get my ass sued, so let's just say it's all fake. And that's all for today. I will catch you all in the next one.